please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, Asian markets, they are trading in the green on the back of strong gains that we saw on Wall Street overnight. Well, the Japanese index as well is holding with a gain of more than 0.5%. Remember, the Bank of Japan is set to issue its latest monetary policy outlook report. That's expected later today. The central bank, though, is expected to hold on to the current rate. So we'll keep an eye out on that market. The Korean markets as well, that's doing well. It's up close to around 0.8%. So green on the screen to kickstart trade. Strong handover coming in for the US markets. And that's seen a rub through in terms of all those Asian markets that have opened up. That would mean the SGX Nifty is indicating maybe after yesterday's good run, we start off the new series on a positive note. So 45 to around a 50-point bump up is what we could expect in early morning trade. But moving on then, in a historic meeting, the two Korean leaders are meeting face-to-face for the first time in over 10 years. North Korea's Kim Jong-un has stepped across the border with South Korea for talks with President Moon Jae-in. Developments from this summit will be crucial to watch as peace and denuclearization tops the agenda. CNBC's Sherry Kang reports on the same.
Apart from the official ceremonies that we just saw over the last 40 minutes or so, I think now the real deal begins. The real negotiation begins in that room at the Peace House of Panmunjom. So we'll see how it goes. I think so far what we've seen from the two leaders making really nicety the invitation to walk over to the military demarcation line to a South Korean president, and he actually did that. So technically, he went to North Korea for just a few seconds or so. And we've got White House wishing well for the Inter-Korean Summit for peace and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula. So it looks nice overall.
Okay, well, it has to be one of the most historic things to happen in this century. But moving on to Wall Street then, stocks rose sharply in overnight session, helped by strong quarterly results from some of the biggest US companies. The Dow jumped over 230 points, and the strong quarterly numbers also lifted the S&P 500 and NASDAQ by 1% and 1.6% respectively. Facebook shares surged 9% after the company posted better than expected earnings and revenue for the first quarter. CNBC's Eric Shemi gets us a wrap of what took place on Wall Street.
Wall Street closed up today, as you saw, down the S&P up 1%, the NASDAQ, the tech-heavy index there, up about 1.6%. But that real story has been since then, the last 2.5 hours after the closing bell. The three biggest names that reported were Intel, Microsoft, and Amazon. Intel soared after beating on strong earnings, up about 3.25% right now after the closing bell. You can see that right there. Microsoft stock, that fell as much as 2.5%, even though they reported better than expected earnings, and then that came to around, down about 0.25%, but that'll still move overnight. Amazon, that was the real surprise. For a couple minutes here in the office, people were not sure if these numbers were real or not. Revenue was $51 billion. That was up 43% from last year. Amazon Web Services increased 49%. And listen to this, the earnings per share, $3.27. $3. That was far better than the $1.26 that analysts were expecting. So no surprise. With all that, the stock jumped 7% and set a new all-time high. So that's the big story here overnight from Wall Street. Back to you.
Okay, so really a blowout quarter coming in from Amazon, but cash levels are low globally. That's the word coming in from Ruchir Sharma of Morgan Stanley Investment Management. In an exclusive conversation with CNBC, he shares his outlook on global growth momentum. Let's hear him out.
Dollar really hasn't reacted much to this change because this is very much a US-centered event in terms of what's going on. So if you look at the dollar, it has barely budged, like even over the past few months as interest rates have gone up. And this, I think, is something which should help international markets a bit because the dollar is still in a bear market. Yeah. So if you look at the history of the dollar tends to move in long cycles of about 5 to 7 years within a range. And we're just 2 years into the dollar bear market after having had a bull market for 5 to 6 years. So I think that is something which provides some cushion, I think, to international markets. But there's no doubt that the US is the most expensive market out there, and the price of money is changing out here at a time when economic growth also seems to have peaked globally. I think that the big sort of issue here is the fact that we have had this massive bull market, but there are 3 Ds which have always been a concern, which I think are going to come back into focus. And for me, those 3 Ds basically are demographics, deglobalization, and debt. I think that those 3 Ds are going to come back much more into focus in the conversation over the next few quarters. And I think that this demographic point is still so misunderstood, that why can't economic growth go back to 3-4%? When your labor force is growing at such a slow pace, it's so hard to sort of get back to those sort of growth rates, and we still have that anchoring bias.
Well, European markets, they did well in yesterday's trading session. Investors, they kept an eye out on corporate earnings. And the European Central Bank left rates unchanged. This amid signs of apparent softening in the Eurozone's growth outlook. So we had the 3 frontliners that ended in the green. They did quite well in yesterday's trading session. But the real money was made in the broader markets. The Italian index, the ATEX as well did well. That's the Greek index. Both those 2 markets, in fact, put on 1 to around 1.5%. But yesterday, we had the emerging markets as well that did very, very well. Both the Russian and the Brazilian index ended with gains of around 0.8% to around 1.4%.
Okay, well, let's tell you about the currency space then. The US dollar has held near a 3.5-month high as US yields have prompted unwinding of big short positions in the currency, while the euro was hampered by a dovish tone from the European Central Bank.
And in the world of commodities, then, oil prices rose overnight amid concerns that the United States may reintroduce sanctions on Iran, which could potentially reduce the country's oil exports. Plunging Venezuelan output as well as robust global demand also has kept Brent crude prices at around that $74 to around $74.5 per barrel.
From precious metals, gold prices hover near multi-week lows as higher US bond yields and a stronger dollar dampen interest. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast this Friday morning. Well, it turned out to actually be a session which was quite interesting for expiry. We did manage to, in fact, close in the green for the April series. But how do things stack up for the May series? We have a lot of earnings to reckon with today as well. We have Manglam who joins in to fill us in on all the cues that he's watching. Manglam, hi.
Hi, Ekta. Good morning. So, as you rightly pointed out, a big move in yesterday's trading session, especially in the last expiry hour, 3 to 3:30 is where we saw that move. And Yes Bank results, the 10% move that we saw on Yes Bank was actually the key contributor to the Nifty Bank as well as the Nifty. Nearly a fourth of Nifty's gains were courtesy Yes Bank. As a result of that, 500 points added on the Nifty in the April series itself after 2 series of losses for that index. And today, as we go, the global cues are fairly strong. The Dow closed above 200 points. We have Asian indices, I was hearing y'all, they have gained, and the SGX Nifty 2 indicates a gap up opening. But that's as far as the opening is concerned. All through the course of today's trading session will be buoyed down or buoyed up by a lot of these results. So that is something we'll be watching out for. Big boy Reliance reporting its fourth quarter numbers today has 8% weight on the index. Maruti 2 results likely to come during markets, 3% weight on the index. UPL, a Nifty company, not much in terms of weights, but we'll have Bank. That one will react to numbers today. That one too has about 2% weight on the Nifty. That's today as well as the Monday's session as far as result reactions are concerned. But for the May series itself, I'd like to put a few points on the table. The first one, Nifty April to May rollovers, they've been higher at 72% as against the last 3 months where we've seen an average rollover of close to 65, 66%. So there is more conviction this time as far as the markets are concerned. And this time, the Nifty's opened the May series with an open interest of close to around 2.2 crore shares. That compares with 1.6, 1.7, 2.5 3 months ago. But earlier, we had seen lighter weights as far as the Nifty at the start is concerned. FII is 54% long, and the markers are placed at the 11,000 call as well as the 10,500 put. The May series has a lot of triggers. Starting with May 2nd, we have the US FOMC meet, Q4 FY18 results, as you pointed out. Karnataka state elections outcome in the middle of May, as well as the IMD update on monsoons is something that we'll be watching out for. So in regard of all these events, the one thing I'll watch out for is the India VIX, because the India VIX at the start of the series at 12% is at the lower level of 2018. So let's watch out whether there are traders who are playing for long volatility or not.
All right, Manglam, but what about some stocks we can focus on in today's trading session?
Well, a lot of stocks, Nigel. We start with results itself. Axis Bank reports the first quarterly loss in 20 years because they have accelerated their asset quality woes. So, recognition of the bad assets. So, let's see whether the street likes that or not. We'll keep an eye out on that one. Biocon Ekta tells us a good set of numbers. The profits at 130 crores above expectations as well as the revenue. Shriram City Union Finance, after a long pause in asset growth, we have the AUM growing at around 18.7%. Tata Metallics too, good set of numbers, but remember this was expected, so we'll keep an eye out on that one. IEX, revenue growth of 8%, operating margins have improved, that has led a growth in the bottom line, so the street would like that. Rallis on the other hand, weak set of numbers coming by, revenues grew by about 6.5%, but the EBITDA, that one was down by about 20%, so we'll watch out for that. Jindal Stainless, Hisar, the net profit grew higher by close to around 60%, and that's because the EBITDA, that one grew ahead of revenues. Revenues were up 10%, EBITDA grew 21%. Automotive motive stampings, though, weak set of numbers. On the operational front, the company posted a loss as against a profit. Cyient has made an acquisition of close to $17 million, so that stock will be on our radar. Gati, I expect the stock to be in the red today, primarily because the board meeting took place and there was no incremental news that came out of the board meeting. And remember, the stock is up 20% this week, despite correction from the high point yesterday. Thermax, well, they won a 280 crore order, so that stock should be excited in trade. Fortis, the board meeting is adjourned to be reconvened today. We'll watch out for that one. Capital First approved issuance of capital close to around 340 crores. And IDBI Bank, they made some clarifications with regards to the loan that they had given to ex-Aircel promoter. So we'll watch out for that one too.
Well, let's get straight to the big interview from the NPA corner. Mr. M.S. Sahu, the chairman of Bankruptcy Board, is confident that the insolvency tribunals are more than capable of handling the potentially large number of cases that may hit these courts following the RBI's latest rules. The RBI had ordered in February that all bad loans over 2,000 crore rupees must be resolved or taken to the insolvency courts in the next 6 months. Sahu says that won't be tough since the NCLT has handled 2,000 cases in the past 1 year. Let's hear that out.
Chances are that on the clock started ticking on March 1st, and on September 1st, a bunch of cases will come. Now, already the previous 30 cases, only 3 have been registered. Do you think the NCLT system will be able to take this load?
No, these are only addition by a number of 10, 20, 30, 50. As I told, 700 have been admitted. 3 times of that have been dismissed by rescind orders. For NCLT, whether it is a default of 10,000 crore or 1 lakh rupees, the effort at the part of NCLT is almost same. And particularly, as I told you, at the initial admission stage, things are very fairly streamlined. People do not find any, because matters are sorted out, what is a dispute, whether a dispute pre-existed, who is a financial creditor, who is an operational creditor, whether he has given a notice, all those have been sorted out now. So that's why the admission process is fairly simpler now.
My question is only with respect to the banking system. The first 12 cases are, they're still getting resolved. One hopes that by May all of them will get resolved. The next batch of 30 which were brought in December, only 3 of the 30 have been admitted, not 30 maybe, of the 28, only 3 have been admitted. Even that backlog is not over. And then on September 1st, we are going to get probably a bunch of cases which are over 2,000 crore. That may be many more than 30. Do you think the system can take that?
Absolutely. But I am saying this, see the track record. This is just another 30 number, another 100 number.
Okay.
If honorable NCLTs have disposed of 2,000 matters in the last 1 year, I don't see that they would not be able to handle if there is. And I'm sure definitely many more cases, as we think that all the cases having outstanding will move here, many will be sorted out before that time.
Okay.
All will not reach NCLT.
Okay, and continuing focus from the banking sector, the CBI has booked Aircel founder and his 2 companies and 15 IDBI bank officials. The case is related to the alleged criminal conspiracy, cheating and corruption leading to 600 crores of a loan default. In fact, IDBI Bank has issued a statement now saying it initiated recovery action in this case in August of 2016. Utkarsh Chaturvedi joins in with the details.
So let me have a look at the case first. In October 2010, IDBI sanctioned a loan worth 323 crores to a company called Wind OY. Now that loan went NPA in October 2013 and the company filed for bankruptcy in Finland that year itself. Now this company was owned by Siva Group of companies whose chairman is C. Shiva Shankaran. Now another company which is by the name of Axel Sunshine, a company again owned by the Siva Group of companies, applied for a loan worth 523 crores rupees in 2014 to IDBI Bank. Now IDBI Bank went ahead and passed that loan. Now what CBI alleges is that the company used the amount to pay the loan of Wind OY and also other group companies. Now CBI believes that this is in violations of the regulatory guidelines of RBI on foreign investments in India. Now an FIR has been taken in this case. IDBI Bank officials, promoters of the company and other group companies are also a part of the FIR. The FIR is filed against 39 individuals in this case, which include C. Shiva Shankaran, and almost 15 former or current IDBI Bank employees are also a part of the FIR, and some of them are senior names. Let me name some of them. MS Raghavan, then CMD of IDBI, a part of the FIR. BK Batra, then DMD of IBI, a part of the FIR. Mervyn O. Rego, who was then DMD of IDBI and is right now a serving CMD and CEO of Syndicate Bank. Kishore Kharat, who was then the CMD of IDBI and right now is the MD of Indian Bank. And GM Yadwarkar, who is the current Deputy MD of IDBI, is also named in the FIR. Now, interestingly, this case was not referred to CBI by the bank itself, but it was CVC which went ahead and gave this case to CBI. After filing the FIR, CBI went ahead and conducted searches in almost 50 places in 10 cities, which include cities like Delhi, Bombay, Gandhinagar, Chennai, Bangalore, and residents of most of these people as a part in the FIR was also being searched. Now, as you said, IDBI Bank has clarified, and some points they have said is that they have given the loan in 2014, the loan became an NPA in 2015, the loan has been fully provided for, and finally they have initiated recovery actions to recover dues from Axel in August 2016. With that, it's back to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that. Well, let's shift focus to earnings then. Pharma major Biocon reported its quarter 4 numbers. Ekta, how were the numbers?
Well, I'd say it was an overall mixed picture, but more positive than negative, which is coming in for Biocon this quarter. Now, the reason I say that is that the revenue is up 25% this quarter, and this is primarily led by the biologics business, which is basically biosimilars, etc., which is up 47% year on year, and we have research services, which we already know, which is Syngene, which is up 45% on a year-on-year basis. So good going for both of these segments for Biocon. However, the margins were below estimates. They came in at around 20% versus an estimate of around 21 to 22%. So there was some amount of a come off there simply because there was a total expenditure which has risen 26% year on year. Profit was a bit subdued, so the street wasn't expecting much on profit, so it's come above estimates. But if you look at it in terms of the internals, we had the depreciation which was up 12%, finance costs which was up 31% year on year, and we had the other income which really supported in terms of aiding the bottom line. So overall, you'd have to say it's a little bit of a mixed internal that you have, but the top line growth was very steady for Biocon this quarter. This is something that the street has been looking at very closely. Now, interestingly, we have the conference call at 9 a.m. this morning. So I think a lot of the stock reaction will depend on the commentary as well.
Okay, all right, Ekta, thanks so much for that. Well, we'll slip into a short break.